Hi.
Welcome to the We Got You Mama Summit. Thank you for joining us. I want to tell you all about Alexandra. She is a doctor, excuse me, Dr. Alex is how she likes to be known as, and is a proud owner of and founder of Boston Pelvic Physical Therapy in Melrose, Massachusetts. With a doctor of physical therapy degree and specializes in training in pelvic health. We've been talking a lot about pelvic health and in this summit, and we're going to keep talking about it because I think it's really important. So she's been in practice over a decade and is a wonderful mom. And she also has a Great Dane puppy now
Yeah.
that's probably ginormous. So now I'm dog mom. And
Mhm.
she her work includes a lot of pregnancy, postpartum, menopause management, sexual dysfunction, bladder, bowel incontinence, pelvic pain. We're gonna touch a little bit on all of those today during our chat, and she knows both worlds of having a C-section with her first, and then with the second, she had a VBAC, so she got to experience the lovely world of both types of deliveries. And so I find that if you've experienced yourself, you can more deeply inform those that you are helping and supporting and treating. So thank you. Thank you for being here. Let's just launch into all the things I mentioned, even in all our promo materials about the joke about peeing your pants or peeing when you sneeze. And it was normalized when growing up because my mom was like, "Oh, it's your fault. Like I had all of you kids and that's why I can't jump on the trampoline with you. I'll pee my pants." And so I had assumed that after I had babies, that was going to be the case. I do a jumping jack and like that, I just have to wear black pants because it would happen. I would still do them, but I would be leaking. And once I got more informed and reach out to a pelvic floor therapist, and we were able to do, all the things. And I don't do that anymore. And I've had 3 kids. So tell us a little bit more about that, some of the science behind it, and how you help people, through that incontinence journey.
Okay, that's a great question. And yes, I have seen the little memes and notes. I laughed so hard, tears ran down my leg. And it's just so normal, right? We say, like, pad up. Just the poise industry is like $1 billion industry, and the pads are the solution, but it's really just a band-aid. You're still leaking. You're just wearing a pad in your underwear. And
Yeah.
so pelvic floor physical therapists are specially trained to teach people how to find the muscles in their pelvis, which are here on my nerdy model.
Love
But
it.
these muscles actually help to stop the flow of pee. And in your urethra, which is the tube that you pee through, you have muscles that can stop the flow. And so, working with somebody to find these muscles again and rehab them, whether you've had a baby or not, is really important and actually can help you stop leaking. And so the cool thing about it is there's fast twitch and slow twitch muscles, meaning like a sprinter versus an endurance athlete.
Okay.
So if you're struggling to make it to the bathroom, so sometimes people are like, oh, I almost make it there, or I
Yeah.
get key in the door and then suddenly I'm leaking. Well, if you think about it, that person made it all the way from wherever they came from, the store, their office, in their car. They drove all the way into their driveway. They made it from their driveway to the front door. And then the key in the door is the trigger. Or
Right.
maybe they make it all the way to the bathroom and then they start leaking. And what's happening is they're panicking. And
Right.
so the more you get worked up into that fight or flight, the more likely it is that you're going to leak. So
It's the
step
garage
one,
door opener for me.
yes, the garage door
You
opener.
hear it and you're like, your body's like, you're close. You're so close. Are
You're
you
so
gonna
close.
make it?
Yeah. And then a lot of people don't. And very early in my career, I had a patient, and the only change we made was that she sat on the little bench on her porch and took 5 deep breaths. And then she went into her house and she was like, Alex, sometimes I don't even go to the bathroom when I get in now because I don't have
Stop
to.
it.
I'm
Yeah.
just freaking out. So stopping, maybe doing a few heel toe raises, doing a few Kegels, which I'm going to teach you how to do, taking some deep breaths, trying to calm your nervous system down. You think about a cartoon, they get scared and pee their pants. Like we've seen that so many times in
Yeah.
all children videos that we watched growing up.
Mhm.
And what we want to do is we want to say, no, I'm in control of my bladder. My bladder is not in control of me. So we say
Yeah.
mind over bladder. So I'm in charge. My bladder is not ruling my life. I'm going to stop. I'm going to, use my muscles. I'm going to stay calm, and then I can walk calmly to the bathroom. When it comes to the leaking, that's more like a jump, a cough, a laugh, like the trampoline park. That is the coordination piece. We need to be able to close that exit, and we need to be able to do it with enough force that whatever force is coming down, like chew, that's a lot of
Yeah.
abdominal pressure. So that pressure coming down on our bladder, we need to be able to give an equal counter pressure to close that valve, to close the exit. And so we need to be able to do that quickly enough and strongly enough so that the leak doesn't happen. And it's totally possible. And
Yeah.
that's the amazing thing. I think as a culture, we're very comfortable with women suffering. And a lot of
Yeah.
us, there's so much shame, and there's so much stigma around even saying that you have these problems. And
Right.
worse yet, sometimes somebody will finally admit that they have the problem, and then they won't get good advice for how to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a challenge with pelvic floor physical therapists. A lot of people have never even heard of it. So,
Right.
but I think it's so great that we're having this conversation because we're talking about what is stress incontinence, what type of professionals can help, and what can you do on your own to help yourself. So
Right.
let's segue into just briefly saying, what is your pelvic floor and how can you find it?
Yeah.
Okay. And so these muscles are so cool. They run like a hammock or a floor or a trampoline at the base of your pelvis.
Mm-hmm.
And they run from your pubic bone in the front to your tailbone in the back. So they surround the anus, they surround the vaginal opening, and this is your urethra where you pee from, and this is your clitoris here.
Okay.
So they come all the way up to the front. And these muscles are under our conscious control. So that's so cool. These muscles, we can actually think about them and do something with them. The challenge is that we can't see it when we're doing it. With a bicep curl, you can be like, yep, I'm
Yeah.
definitely doing it,
That's true. Yeah.
But with the pelvic floor, it's almost like an intellectual exercise. You're like, am I doing it? And
Yeah.
so,
Am
yeah,
I just like squeezing my butt cheeks? Am I? Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. And so what I will say is if you're watching now and you're sitting in a chair, try and shift from side to side and feel your sit bones, the bones that you sit on. And the muscles are sitting right in between those two bones, and they're running from the front of your pelvis all the way to your tailbone. So rock back and forward and feel where your pubic bone is and then your tailbone. And you can feel those bones.
Yeah.
And then you can visualize the muscles are in between. And
Yeah.
think about as if you're going to hold that gas or stop the flow of pee midstream. And then think about nodding your clitoral hood. I know that's such an interesting cue, but when you actually try and do it, you can.
Yes.
Oh, you can do it.
You can
And
do it.
you
Yeah.
want to let it go.
Okay.
The biggest, most important thing that I can impart to a large audience is that there's many, many, many people who need to learn how to lengthen and relax their muscles before they work on strengthening. And you
Yeah.
can actually leak with muscles that are too tight
Yeah.
because tight muscles can be weak. And you think about it, if you're already up here,
Right.
we're not going to go more up here. We want to
Yeah.
lengthen, relax, stretch, and then work on the strength and the coordination.
That's me.
Yeah, it's a clencher.
I'm always holding. And that was, I think, even pre-babies. I think I have
The
TMJ,
jaw.
and
Yep.
then I am permanent hold Kegel is like where I'm at all the time. And so I thought that like,
Preventive and it's literal sometimes,
yeah, yeah,
And so if you are a person who pushes to pee, if you strain for a bowel movement, if you have thin stools that come out very thin because the muscles aren't lengthening and opening, if you have pain with intercourse or pain with something inserted into the vagina, if you have to power pee, if you're like a pusher to pee, those are
mm,
signs that your muscles are probably clenching. Or if you have that jaw tightness, a lot of times those are correlated. And so
yeah.
what I would say is for
I've
everybody
never
trying,
heard that yet.
yes,
That this is correlation with that. Like no one's ever,
national connections. And you think
yeah,
this is the entrance and that's the exit, right? So it's
yeah,
like connected. But what
100%.
I want to say is that lengthening. So you think about that hood nod, that closing the urethra, the closing the anus, the
Mhm.
lengthening, it's the releasing, it's the letting go. And you can use your breath to help you. So you
Right.
have your diaphragm, which is your breathing muscle, and then you have your pelvic floor. When you take a big breath in, you can think about everything expanding open. And then those muscles will lengthen and let go, which is what we want them to do. And then when you exhale, you can think of it all contracting and closing and lifting. And then the important thing is that you don't keep it there, that you
Sure.
release, lengthen, because we want the pelvic floor to be relaxed at baseline.
Yeah.
And so a lot of us grew up with a lot of encouragement to suck in and keep our bellies tight.
Yeah.
And that can contribute to it because the core, the abdominal muscles, are right connected with the pelvic floor. So if we're constantly clenching our core, our pelvic floor is also really tight. So thinking about actually expanding with the breath. And you don't want to force it all into your belly. You want to think about going in a 360-degree breath. So you're breathing in and you're breathing into your sides, your back, your ribs are expanding out to the sides, your belly is also gently expanding. And that will help you relax your pelvic floor. So I think a lot of people are sort of obsessed with Kegels, but it's somewhat misguided if you can't actually lengthen the muscles effectively. And the fact of the matter is, we really need to be able to use those muscles quickly to shut off the flow, our urinary sphincter and our levator ani, and then we want to relax again. We don't want to keep it grippy all the time.
Yeah.
So if you are a person who has true weakness and you're trying to feel maybe just a little flicker, you can practice both the coordination and the endurance. And so what you would do is you would just do a few quick flicks, lifting and lowering, see how many you can do before your muscles get tired. And then you can do a hold where you squeeze and hold it and you say, oh, can I hold it up to 10 seconds? Maybe you're only at 3 seconds right now, or maybe you're only at 5 seconds, but that's something to work on over time. And so I feel like those are two very easy activities that people can do. And the best thing about it is if you go to a pelvic floor physical therapist, they will evaluate those muscles with an exam. They'll put on gloves, they'll use a little lubricant, and they'll feel the muscles on either side. And they can help you to determine, are you too tight? Do you have decreased coordination? Is your endurance low? Is there weakness? And so that's really cool because then we can help people just determine where they at.
Yeah.
As opposed to
Set
just
a path
blanket
forward. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
That's
So
cool.
that's what I would say about stress incontinence. And one last tip about that, and then we can move on, is that if you know you're about to cough, laugh, or sneeze, try and do that hood nod. Try and close that front area. And right before the sneeze comes,
Yeah.
maybe you have to do it 30 times, but on the 31st time it works.
Do you recommend crossing your, because that's what I tend to do. Like I will cross my leg, like one in front of the other and then sneeze. Is that not recommended? Or is it like as long as you do both so that you're still practicing the hood and the.
I think eventually you won't have to cross your legs. That's the idea. Once your pelvic floor is in a place where you actually have that strength and the coordination to do it quickly enough, then I think the leg crossing is completely fine in the meantime because it might prevent you from doing it. And probably what it's doing is it's actually activating your inner thigh muscles, which carry over into your pelvic floor.
Cool.
So it's pelvic floor a little boost to try and close. But of course, our long-term goal would be that you don't have to do that.
Right. And remember to engage those muscles before you sneeze and making it
and then let it go.
Right.
And then relax.
Let it go. Yes.
And then
now I'm trying to
then relax. Yep. So relax your anus, feel your tailbone lengthening, feel like a hammock or a balloon expanding open inside your pelvis.
And when you say your pelvic lengthening, just because I'm doing this all right now, I find that I'm doing a lot of pelvic tilting. Is that normal or not? When I lengthen, I tend to push out my belly and I'm expanding through my core. And, a lot of people think your core is just, in front, but it's all the way back. Right. So then I find myself kind of sticking my buns out, doing a little, is that normal?
That's completely normal. And also a lot of times I will get people on the exercise ball and I will have them do circles, figure eights, tilts, just to get their brain a little more familiar with those muscles in there. So I feel like what you're doing is you're trying to find your muscles and you're trying to lengthen, which is great.
Yeah. Cool. So let's talk about sex, baby. So it's this, your doctor said you're good to go, right? And it's and everyone's different, right? And so people get that 6-week checkup. Let's go ahead and all right, I guess I don't know if I want to, but let's give it, and it hurts, or and then they're so scared to even try again. I don't want to, right? People feel so much trauma went down there. So to talk about that a little bit, it's painful. It feels weird. It's not normal. I don't feel anything. Let's talk a little bit about that. And sometimes people feel oh, this is my life now.
Yes.
Even if the pain goes away, it's oh, this will never be the same again.
Yeah. And so let me just start by saying 6 weeks is such an arbitrary timeline. And many, many people do not feel ready at that time. They're not sleeping. They're getting to know their new relationship and interpersonal stuff that can be challenging. And you're still healing. You are maybe pumping or breastfeeding, which decreases your estrogen levels. So your vagina is very dry and your libido might be lower. And also, you're getting a lot of snuggles and cuddles from your baby. So some of those needs are being met in a different way.
Yeah.
Like you are having a lot of snuggly time, which is something that a lot of people enjoy about intimacy with a partner. And obviously, it's a completely different thing, but it's still the oxytocin, it's still those feel
Sure.
good hormones. You're getting them from something else.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different reasons why somebody might not be ready. And I think even if you don't have a vaginal with a C-section, they go through, they cut through all these layers of your belly. Having somebody near that area can be
Yeah.
really painful and a struggle at that point. Um, and at least when I had mine, I think they told me not to drive for like 6 weeks. So it's like, no, if I can't even drive, I'm certainly not ready for this.
Right.
And so yeah, so I think really be gentle and give yourself grace if that's the case for you. And remember that the hormonal shifts that you're happening, it's also part of that, that it's not just something's wrong with me that I don't have interest right now. And then if you are ready to try again, and it's, um, I was going to say consensual, but of course, I hope that it is with your partner when you're ready. But
Yeah.
when you're ready, here are some strategies that we can talk about that will help you if you're having pain. So, number one, the pelvic floor muscles might be very tight and have some trigger points or knots. Like if you've ever felt like a knot in your shoulder or your back, if
Every
there was,
day.
yeah, exactly. If there was some trauma down there, that can be, it's like our protective mechanism, right? Our muscles
Okay.
just spasm, like what just happened to us?
Right.
And so you might actually need to do some manual therapy, like get in there and do some massage to release that tension. If you had a tear or an episiotomy, then there were some stitches there, and scar tissue only has 80% of the flexibility of regular tissue. So getting in there and massaging the scar to help the sensitivity there and to give it a little bit more flexibility, also very helpful. And you may need to do either a pelvic wand or pelvic dilators, which actually help get you back to being ready to have penetrative intercourse. But certainly, I think P and V sex is not the pinnacle here. Intimacy can take many forms,
Yeah.
and sometimes it can even be helpful to make a yes, no, maybe list. And if penetrative intercourse is painful for you right now, that can be on the no list. But
Yeah.
there's still be a lot of things on your yes list.
Yeah.
And I think it's broadening
All or nothing. Yeah.
broadening our understanding of what intimacy means and being willing to, and this takes obviously a willing partner as well, but you can do a lot solo to explore what actually feels good to me now, because different things might feel good that used to not even be on the table.
Yeah.
And so what I will also say is the resources for this abound compared to when I started years ago.
Right.
Um, and it's
Yeah.
pretty incredible. So I have two of my favorite books here. I'm not like affiliated with these people at all, but
Sure.
Becoming Clifford by Laurie Mintz and Come As You Are by Emily Nagoski. These are just amazing. This is the workbook. So this is
Yeah.
something you do yourself. And it's
Okay.
so cool because it actually just takes you step by step to figure out what's going on. How can I reach a great orgasm again, or maybe for the first time, and getting back in touch with that part of yourself. Um, and when you are pumping or breastfeeding, especially, but I think pretty much everybody postpartum, lubricant is essential. And you
Okay.
really want to find a water-based, paraben-free, glycerin-free lube.
Okay.
And the reason for that is because the drugstore brands often actually end up drying out your vagina more, and sometimes they have a lot of chemicals and stuff in them. So
Yeah.
it's just one of those things that people are like, Alex, I've never needed lubricant before. And it's so different after you give birth because your hormones have shifted. So let's say you used to just have your own lubrication. In this postpartum period, you may not. You
Yeah.
might be aroused, but you might not be producing that because of your lack of estrogen so that
Got
you
it.
can pump or breastfeed. And so I think that's something that everybody should know, but somehow we
Right.
don't. Yeah, it should
No.
be knowledge. Like, don't try having penetrative or insertive intercourse without using
Yeah.
lubricant. It's
Yeah.
essential. And it will help glide over your scar too.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That stuff
So,
that was never brought to my attention, all
yeah,
3 kids, right? And then also when you talked about massaging the scar tissue, I'm like, well, yeah, that makes complete sense. That was never talked about, right? It's
yeah.
like we
And if you have knee
tear.
surgery, they're going to massage your scar and physical therapy on your knee. But
Yeah.
then with a C-section and a perineum scar, we should be doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And that's the amazing thing is adhesions are when the scar gets like stuck to the
Yeah.
tissue underneath it. And that can create tension and pain. And
Right.
then somebody goes in there to stretch it for the first time, and it's like, uh-oh.
Right.
Yeah. And then also, I just want to say, a lot of people think something's wrong with them if they don't have an orgasm from insertive or penetrative intercourse alone. But the clitoris is where it's at,
Yeah.
So for most of us, around the clitoris is the most kind of sensation in a positive way. And so rebecoming clitorate, if you are in the audience and you are not having an orgasm or haven't had an orgasm, there's nothing wrong with you. I will say that, but you can have one. And also, we can even de-emphasize the orgasm itself and focus on pleasure,
Mhm.
and joy, and just say, this feels good, and not just focus on
Right.
the end goal, enjoying the whole part of it. So those are my quick tips for
Love
postpartum.
that.
Yeah.
That's really awesome. And I feel like there's so much stigma around it still, right?
Yeah.
And then to have to go into an office and have someone like poke around in there and it's like, but you you had a baby. So like, you know what I mean? So it's like a lot went on down there. So why
Super.
wouldn't we treat it? Why wouldn't we go to a doctor to help us get those muscles back on track, to help us,
Yep.
feel less pain, feel, I
Mhm.
mean, even, the tons of my friends that have had the C-sections are like, oh yeah, I'm just forever numb in that area. And then you come to a doctor like you, just like,
Yeah,
no, there are ways that we can like fix that.
definitely.
We
Yeah.
accept these, like we just accept what we hear sometimes. And I think
Yeah.
it's important to look past that. And so thank you for being here. Thank you
Yeah.
for informing us on all these things. I think it's really important to get it out there, which is, again, and I keep mentioning this in my interviews, like why I'm so excited about this space, because we get to bring people like you, Dr. Alex, on board, and they can send you a quick message, or you can guide them in the right direction, or you can be like,
Totally.
hey, I didn't write this book, but this book is, legit and is a gem. Go get it. This is going to help you with da 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 da. Right? Like
Mhm.
we don't need to be afraid of reaching out to people that know what they're talking about to help you, and you can choose which advice to accept and follow and feel supported in that. So I think it's,
Right. And just know what resources are out there.
yeah, like good ones.
Mhm. Totally.
Right? It's very overwhelming, especially like, yeah, like you said, in the last decade is night and day, like from my, you know, 13-year-old to my 7-year-old to if I had a baby now, the information and what and things are always changing. So I think it's also important to be up to date. If you're
Yeah.
seeing an 80-year-old pediatrician that still, has the same sort of advice from her research she did in med school 50 years ago, like maybe that's something that we should think about. So
Mm.
anyway, thank you so
Yeah.
much for being here with us and
Welcome.
talking about these things. They're so important. So if you need to reach out, all the information is in the email from her episode today. I will also throw in links to those books that she recommended if you didn't get a screen grab of that. And I'll also include all her website links. You can check her out. Obviously, she's out in Boston. So if you're in the Massachusetts area, go check out Boston Public PT and you will be taken care of. So
Right. And I have a virtual course for the people that are not
yes,
local.
that is your free gift. Tell us about your virtual course.
Yeah. I have the Healthy Pelvis Project. So it's called Postpartum Essentials. And it basically covers everything from the first 48 hours after birth to core healing, bladder healing, bowel healing, pain with sex, low back pain, prolapse, tailbone pain. It just runs the gamut. And I made the course when I was newly postpartum with my daughter because I just couldn't believe how lack of information was so prevalent. And so I created this course for people who didn't have access to pelvic floor PT.
Yeah, I love that. So it's all there in
Yep.
one place
Yep.
that you can go,
Definitely.
and it will guide you through how to do this right on your own, maybe how to test, how to strengthen, how to, yeah, all the things. That's so great. Thank you so much. It's true.
Welcome.
It's becoming more common and you're seeing more practices open up, but there may not be one in your area. So this
Yeah.
is a really amazing resource. So thank you for doing that and doing it at a time when like you're in it, but you're also like, I'm in this and this is what's happening. And so you felt inspired, like, I'm going to like let
Totally.
people know,
Yeah.
and I
I was
think
pumped
that
between filming.
right. Right. That is so great. Again, thank you so much. I really appreciate you, friend.
Thanks,
And I can't
Carly.
wait to meet up in person someday. It's like a vision of mine for all of us to come together someday and to party it out.
Thank
So
you.
I appreciate you.
Bye.
Bye. Hi, Sarah. Thank
Hi.
you for popping on. Thank you for joining our We Got You Mama Summit. Everyone, I would love to introduce you to Sarah Bradford. She is a mother of two, and she's the founder and CEO of Luna Mother Co. You have to check out their site. You have to check out their app. It's beautiful. Sarah's a certified personal trainer. Her focus is in pre and postnatal exercise. She is a specialist. We're talking about DR, diastasis recti, core rehab. She's a female athlete coach, a childbirth educator. So you want to know all the things surrounding all that I just mentioned. She is your go-to gal. Luna Mother Co. has a really cool, comprehensive app that you can go on to, and it empowers thousands and thousands of women worldwide. And what's cool, as I think a lot of this theme of this summit is surrounding evidence-based support, that we have access to, and really shining a light on that. So without further ado, Sarah, tell us a little more about you and your journey into, motherhood and, starting this company and all those fun things.
Absolutely. Thank you, Carly. So, like you mentioned, I'm a mom of two. Both of my kids were born via IVF. So my journey to getting pregnant the first time took longer than we had anticipated. We started doing IVF for male factor infertility, which is a story for another time. But I assumed that everything would be fine on my end. And so when I didn't get pregnant with our first embryo transfer, it was kind of a surprise. We had some complications with the IVF as well. So by the time I finally did get pregnant on our third round of embryo transfers, switching to a whole new clinic, all the things, I was understandably very scared to do anything. I was also pregnant with twins and miscarried one of the twins at about 10 weeks into the pregnancy. So that just increased my fear that something might potentially happen to my baby. So being someone that was very fit and active leading up to my pregnancy, I was afraid to go to the gym. I was afraid to lift weights. The only thing I did was yoga, which was wonderful. But at the end of my pregnancy, my birth was also long and difficult, and my recovery was really hard, much harder than I had anticipated. Of course, how could you ever know until you do it, right? But it certainly wasn't what I had expected it to be. And so after a couple of months, when I was just still having some pain and just my back really hurt, I felt this sense that something was wrong, that something was just not right in my body. And I went back to my healthcare provider on 3 separate occasions. I saw 3 separate people within my OB-GYN's practice, and they all told me that everything was fine, that there was nothing wrong, and that it just was something that would take time. I knew that that was not the case. So I went online and I started Googling some of my symptoms, and I came across diastasis recti. I did a self-check, and sure enough, there was a pretty significant gap. And I didn't know what to do. My OB-GYN never even mentioned this term to me. So I was lucky enough to find a pelvic floor physical therapist where I live in the Bay Area. And I went to see her, and she did an assessment, and she started to give me exercises and things to do to begin to heal. And I was very diligent about doing these exercises, and it was amazing and it really helped. But when the time came when I wanted to start exercising beyond that, there was nothing out there to help me bridge the gap between my rehab and athleticism. So I decided that this was a void that needed to be filled. And so when my son was still just a baby, I went back to school. I got several certifications. I learned everything I could possibly learn. I applied it to myself. And then I ultimately started Luna when my son was just about 18 months old. And yeah, so that's kind of how I got here. And then when I had my daughter, I was able to apply all of the things that I had learned and experience for myself the difference. And it was really wild. You know, obviously pregnancies, births can be different regardless. But my healing journey after having her was night and day, completely different experience. And so, yeah, that was my experience that led me to start Luna, to be able to give everyone else the tools and knowledge that I really wish that I had had.
Right. How pregnant are you with her in your videos?
From about
You're
34.
like so beautiful and so pregnant, and you're doing these videos. Like, you guys have to take these videos, and like, it's so beautiful.
I started filming with her when I think I was about 35 weeks, and I filmed all the way up until she was born. So 41 weeks. Yeah. Very, very pregnant.
And I love to share with all my moms and, especially in our prenatal classes, like, you can do this, you can do more. That move is okay. Like, that is actually going to prepare you for birth and then help you heal faster postpartum. And I think, like, your first time around, you just are worried because you just don't know, right? You're just not knowledgeable on all the things and how your body works. And maybe you got, some bad advice somewhere. So when you hear the word DR, that means diastasis recti. It's, separation of the halves, blah, blah, blah. We can go into all that science, but how does someone test for that? If they're like, just let me see what's up and I want to test myself. Like, yes, you can Google all the videos. You have that in your platform as well, and directions surrounding that. So just give them a quick rundown of, how you check for that.
So if you happen to notice any doming or coning that's happening along that midline, which was my first sign, is that I was trying to put on pants and I saw this thing popping out of my midsection. That's a pretty good indicator that something's going on. But you may not always see that. So a quick, easy way to assess yourself would be to just lie down on the floor. I like to have your knees bent so that your feet are flat on the floor, as if you're preparing for a glute bridge. And then you keep your belly totally relaxed and you use these 3 fingers. And I usually start kind of at the top right near the rib cage, and then slowly palpate your way all the way down. And while you do that, you want to keep those muscles relaxed and just lift your head a little bit up off of the floor. If you lift your head too high, you can get a bit of a false read. So just lifting the head up a little bit, and then you'll be able to feel your fingers kind of sinking in. And you should be able to feel how wide that gap is, because you can feel the 2 sides of your 6-pack muscles against your fingers. So for some people, it might be 3, maybe 2, maybe it's just 1. And the width matters a little bit, but it's really more about the depth. So how far are your fingers sinking in? So for example, if you have someone that has been working hard to heal their diastasis and they maybe still have 2 or 3 fingers, but it's really shallow and there's good tension, I like to see that. Maybe it's just 1 finger, but you can sink it all the way down, then we have some work to do. Okay. So pay more attention to the depth than anything else.
Awesome. I love that. And I also think I always say it wrong. I just always say DR. Because I can never say it right. Diastasis, diastasis.
People say it differently. Yeah, it doesn't really matter.
Okay, awesome. That is really good to know, because that is new information also for me that I haven't heard a lot surrounding the depth. So that's
Mhm.
interesting. They're like, well, I'm just 1 or 2 fingers, I'm good to go. But then like if there's fingers sinking all the way in, then that's something that needs to be addressed. So that's really awesome.
Yes.
So that's a way to know that you have it. So what can we do to prevent that? Is this something you can prevent? I think there's a lot of information out there that's like, goes one way or the other. You can do these exercises to prevent ER, but I'm like, when you're pregnant, your abs separate, like no matter what. Like, can you kind of talk a little more on that?
I can. So when you see programs out there that say that their program will prevent diastasis, I don't love that. I think that that's a convenient marketing tool because everybody's bodies are different. So during pregnancy, diastasis recti is a naturally occurring thing that happens in order for you to create the space needed for your growing belly and your growing baby. Right. So that linea alba, which is the band of connective tissue that runs between your six-pack muscles, is designed to stretch to accommodate for that growth. Now, when it stretches beyond its capacity, so if you think of a rubber band that you keep pulling and pulling and pulling, or like a hair tie even, until it starts to lose its shape and it gets stretched out, that can happen. And that can lead to what I refer to as more of an injury-based diastasis that is still present at that 6 to 8 week mark postpartum and would probably require some rehab. But during pregnancy, it is going to happen. So there are things that you can do that can help potentially prevent that more injury-based diastasis that can stick around postpartum. So it really comes down to controlling your intra-abdominal pressure. So during pregnancy, in some movements, you might see that doming or coning in the belly. We want to try to avoid that. So learning how to breathe diaphragmatically, learning how to properly engage your pelvic floor and your deep core, the kind of that hugging of the baby movement when you're doing certain things, whether it's just lifting your other child up and into their car seat, whether it's during exercise. So paying attention to that, controlling that intra-abdominal pressure as much as you can really make a big difference. But again, our bodies can also play a role. So someone like myself, who's shorter in stature and doesn't really have much of a torso to speak of, my rib cage and my hips almost touch each other. There's not a lot of space. My babies went straight out, and there's nothing I can do about that. That's just the only way that they had to go. So that can also potentially lead to diastasis. So if you feel like you've done all the things to prevent and you still end up with it, it is not your fault. It is not that you did something wrong. It could be genetics. It could be, there's different factors at play. So to answer your question, you can help to prevent, but it's not always a complete and total guarantee.
Right. It's going to most likely happen. And the work we can do is on after, right? And kind of bringing those.
Right. So it's definitely important to learn to control that intra-abdominal pressure, to do things to keep your core strong during pregnancy for many, many reasons. And that's one of them. It will help you to rebound and to heal faster postpartum. But yes, postpartum, whether you have diastasis or not, it is really a good idea to do some rehabilitative work, especially in those early weeks postpartum, to help start to heal those muscles, reconnect, reestablish that brain-body connection, and start to lay that foundation of strength before you start to engage in more full body, more intense exercise.
How soon, and I guess it can be a case-to-case basis, do you recommend your clients exercise, postpartum? We typically say, oh, well, it's 6 weeks if, you're vaginal, and it's this much time with, C-section, but I know everyone's journey can also be different. Do you kind of stick to that, or you kind of assess each mom, individually on where they're at?
Yeah, if they're coming to my classes, then, certainly a case-by-case basis. So to your point, that 6 weeks checkup is sort of like the gold standard in terms of am I going to get cleared to resume exercise? And for a lot of people that have had uncomplicated births, that's the case, maybe a little bit longer if you've had a C-section. But there are certainly things that you can start to do earlier than that really focus on gentle rehabilitative exercises. So for some people, that may be as early as a day or so post-vaginal birth, or 5 to 7 days, give or take, after a C-section. And that would really look like, doing these things while you're resting. Rest is super duper important, but diaphragmatic breathing, gentle activation and release of the pelvic floor and the deep core. There's some other very gentle rehabilitative exercises. We have an early weeks postpartum rehab on the app. Heel marches, I could go into all those specific exercises, but taking it really slow and focusing on gentle rehabilitation leading up to that checkup can help speed the healing process, can help you reconnect to those muscles, start to heal any pelvic floor or diastasis recti, things that you may have going on. And again, then when you do get cleared for more traditional exercise, you've already done a lot of that healing work, which is going to be a lot of help when you do start to exercise. In terms of doing more traditional stuff, getting that full clearance to exercise. For the majority of people, it's around that 6-week mark. I like people to have stopped bleeding. The bleeding is coming from where your placenta was, and it's essentially a wound that is inside of your uterus. So if you had a wound on the outside of your body, you probably wouldn't be doing really vigorous exercise until it had healed up. So I like people to wait until they have fully stopped bleeding to engage in more aerobic exercise. And the problem with that checkup is that there's often very little, if any, guidance given to how to start exercising again. You're just sort of told, okay, you're fine, you can exercise. Yeah. And then people don't know really what that means. They think I can do whatever I did before I got pregnant. So I'm going to go back to my, Orange Theory or my boot camp or my whatever. And that's oftentimes it's too much, right? Your body's still very much healing at that time. Your uterus hasn't even fully shrunk back down to its pre-pregnancy size. If you haven't done any pelvic floor and core work, it could potentially make those issues worse. So I always recommend trying to find a postpartum specific fitness class or yoga class that you can go to, or someone that is certified in working with that demographic. Or at the very least, seeing a pelvic floor PT who can give you some guidance on how to modify yourself so that we don't run the risk of making those injuries worse or creating any other injuries for that matter.
Yeah. And they can find that in your courses too, because even if they can't access you in your classes in person, I think it's important to also find places like that, places like Fit for Mom, places like our in-person classes that have these certified instructors that know how to give you those modifications. We are trained to say, if you're pregnant, newly postpartum, or have DR, do this instead. You know what I mean? And I haven't found, and I've taken a ton of exercise classes, like all over town, many different cities. And I don't know if I've ever been in a space where I've even heard of any sort of modification, period, right? Mm-hmm. Unless you're like, oh, I have this injury, I'm going to need modifications for my knees or something, right? I wish it was more widely taught,
Mm-hmm.
The world consists of millions of mothers that have given birth. Let's just be a little bit more aware. Mm-hmm. So what if you have DR or you have prolapse, pelvic organ prolapse, and you have some of these issues going on? Can you exercise? What if your DR is like super bad? What if you were diagnosed with prolapse? Or some people are like, I'm gonna get prolapse if I do this. Like, can we speak on that a little bit?
So that is a risk, right? If you are postpartum and you engage in that high impact, high intensity stuff too soon, sure, it can lead to prolapse. And so if you have been diagnosed with it, it's one of those things, again, kind of a case by case thing. So if it is significant, right? If you have a severe prolapse or diastasis, I definitely want you seeing a pelvic floor PT. I want you listening to the advice of your care team first and foremost. Most of the time, the vast majority of people that I have seen has not been super extreme. I've had that happen one time. And unfortunately, when it comes to prolapse, so there's lots of varying grades and types of prolapse. If we're talking, grade 1, 2, depending on, your symptoms and if you have any kind of support device, That's great. I think pessaries are fantastic. But people are often told, oh, you have a prolapse, regardless of what the grade is. So you can't exercise, you can't lift anything heavy, you can't avoid all these things. And we're not told what we can do. So that instills fear in people.
Yeah.
Not only that, I find it to be very unrealistic, because show me a mom who has a baby or young children and is told not to lift weight that is going to not lift their children.
Not gonna
It's
happen.
not real. It's not realistic.
Mm-hmm.
And so telling somebody you cannot lift weight that's heavier than 5 pounds, 10 pounds. Well, now they're afraid every time they lift their child. They think that they're making the situation worse. So I am a firm believer in giving people the tools to retrain their bodies to lift things in a more effective way.
Yeah.
And giving them tools to help relieve symptoms and start to rebuild and re-strengthen those muscles that are supporting your pelvic organs. So I do have people that come to my classes that have prolapse. And of course, case by case, there are different modifications that we do. But I think it's really important to train somebody, how do I properly lift this heavy load and carry my baby or my child that's going to help to protect my pelvic floor and my prolapse during these daily life movements. So yes, in general, I do think that you can exercise in a safe way if you have a prolapse. If you have diastasis, absolutely. There's lots of wonderful ways in which you can re-strengthen and heal from your diastasis. Surgery is definitely not always the option. I think that is another misconception, is that if you have diastasis, you've got to have surgery to fix it. Not the case. I did not have surgery, and I had a solid 3, maybe even 3.5 fingers after my first pregnancy. And now it's down to 1 at the most. So you can heal from exercise alone. If it is super significant, that might be a different story. Sometimes surgery may be warranted, but it's certainly not the only avenue.
And you can always try all the exercise stuff first, right?
And I think that you should. I think that
absolutely. And then like
absolutely.
if it comes down to it, let's maybe surgery is a super invasive, and that's
It
hard.
is. And if you were to have surgery on your knee or whatever, they're going to have you do PT leading up to and after you have that surgery. So with diastasis, same thing. You should do all the things that you can to heal beforehand, and then again after the surgery, instead of just going in and thinking like, okay, I'm going to just go and have it fixed. Well, the underlying dysfunction is still there. We still need to learn how to properly engage those muscles again.
Yeah. They're not strengthened just by someone going in and pulling them back together.
Exactly.
Unfortunately,
yes,
it's not just this and you're good to go.
Yeah.
As lovely as that would be. So when we talk about prenatal exercise, we talk about postpartum exercise. Tell me the benefits. Just to sprinkle in some little prenatal and some little postnatal. I know there's so many. So what are those key benefits? I mean, right now, especially like, I feel like maybe I looked at some 9-month pregnant woman benching, I don't know, a huge amount of weight or squat lifting something huge. And so now it's all in my feed, you know, when you click on something, you're like, and now let's look at all the pregnant women lifting weights. And I think it's awesome. And I think it's super empowering. Again, if you have the education and you're building up to that strength, like I find that that's, you know, amazing. So what are some of those benefits that can come from, you know, working out, getting our heart rate up safely, within that, you know, prenatal stage, and then that, you know, earlier kind of postpartum stage?
Yeah, there's several benefits, and not just for the pregnant person, but also for the baby as well. So there are studies that show that babies who are born to people who exercise during their pregnancy have higher APGAR scores at birth, and have even shown to test higher on academic tests later in life. They have a reduced risk of developing chronic diseases later in life as well. So that alone is like, yes, do it, right?
Right. The risk of not working out and doing nothing is higher, right? For your baby. Yeah.
Yes. And so some other benefits are that obviously it helps you to maintain your lean muscle mass. It helps improve your cardiovascular function, your respiratory function. It helps prepare you for birth. So birth is a very strenuous event. And preparing for your labor, training for that labor. I mean, why wouldn't you, right? You train for a marathon, you train for these other athletic events, and birth is kind of the same way. It is kind of a marathon. And so keeping your muscles nice and strong, working your pelvic floor and your core, both engaging as well as learning how to release and lengthen those muscles is super helpful. And that also reduces your risk, not always prevents, but can reduce your risk of developing diastasis recti postpartum or pelvic floor injuries. So those are some of the main benefits. It also has been shown to help decrease your risk of developing preeclampsia during pregnancy as well, and as well as gestational diabetes. So lots of really great things that can come along with exercising safely during pregnancy. In terms of postpartum, we're tired, we're sleep deprived. We think like, oh, I don't have the energy to exercise, but exercise can actually help to combat that fatigue and increase energy levels. It can improve your mood and your mental alertness as well. Obviously, it can improve your overall fitness and increase lean muscle mass and strength. It can promote a return to your pre-pregnancy weight in a healthy way. It can also, exercise reduces your risk of developing chronic diseases later in life. And if you're going to an in-person fitness class with other moms that are in that same stage of life, I mean, that's a really important social time, to be with other moms and to have that camaraderie in a time that can sometimes feel isolating if you don't have that. So I see that as a big benefit as well.
Yeah. Getting outside, if you can, get outside to do that, or go for a walk. Or I know that, our class, we live in Southern California, so we're lucky enough to host all our classes outside, and, we do our mom and me stroller classes. But even like a lot of these mom walk companies are like popping up, Mom Walk Co. are popping up all over the country. Like, just get out, move your body, do something, and realize that like, they're all in the same boat too, like nothing to be scared of. No one's going to come in there with their new baby and, be squat lifting 250 pounds. Like, they're not going, most likely. That it's a safe place, and you're going to I think you're going to really find some great friends. And what's cool is those babies can get together, or you find a mom you connect with, and then those babies grow up and then they're best buds, and you're kind of creating that space for yourself. And then you'll find that a result of that is this space for these, these little ones to become besties too, which is really special to see.
Absolutely. I'm sure you've seen it in your classes. I certainly have too. I have seen moms meet in class and then go on to be best friends many years later, and their kids are buddies. And there's nothing better than seeing those friendships being fostered in class. It's really, really cool.
It's important. It's super important. So if you can't find that in your space, well, I want to create this here for you. I want to connect you with Sarah and her team and all that she offers online. And I want to connect you with, me and my team and all that we have to offer you. So just know that Sarah's got you. I got you. We're here for you. If you have any more questions surrounding all things exercise, please feel free to reach out. Sarah has generously offered for anyone that does our VIP upgrade, she's going to give you 2 months of their platform for free. So you have to check it out. It's really cool that they've created a space for a bunch of different things. Like when I was scrolling through, I found that like, oh yeah, it's prenatal postnatal exercise, but then you're finding these groups that are for support in so many other aspects of motherhood, which is really cool. Like, yes, exercise, all the benefits, is insanely amazing for ourselves and for our bodies and for our function, for our children. But like all this stuff surrounding postpartum care, right? I think it's important. And our moms need all the support that we can get, right? Like you have that group that was for like what was it, like the parents or a grief group or something you have on your site too, and I thought that was so special and fascinating.
Thank you. Yeah, we have a whole like program and support for people who have experienced loss, whether it's pregnancy or infant loss, that is available as well, because that's an area that is majorly lacking in support and deserves so much more support.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that. And I love that you're, creating a space for those moms to come and, be raw and be vulnerable and, find support in that, because it's, I know I've experienced that loss of babies. You've experienced that loss, and it's a super lonely journey. If you don't have anyone surround you that's maybe been through it before. So she's created that space as well, within Luna Mother Co. So thank you. Thank you for everything you do. Thank you for starting this beautiful business and being there for these thousands of moms. It's really, really special place. So check her out. Check out all the things. Head to Luna Mother Co. What is the website again?
Lunamother.co.
Lunamother.co. Got it. It'll be there, all in that clickable information for you guys too. Thank you so much for joining us. You guys, I didn't go over the 30 minutes. I just try to keep it together without tangenting too much, although I could talk to you all day. Thanks, Sarah. I really appreciate you. And I can't wait to connect again soon. All right.
Thank you so much for having me. Take care.
All right. Bye.